Bonjour and welcome to a different kind of video. You may have noticed that in my unboxing videos, I'm a huge fan of comic books. I read a lot of comic books. I've actually learned English reading comic books. So I thought maybe I could tell you something about comic books, like telling you what I've been reading, what I've enjoyed. And so how about a selection of comic books that maybe you could enjoy as well? So let's start with one of the newest things by Marvel called Phoenix Resurrection. I think it's pretty easy to know what's going on in this comic book. I mean, it says so on the cover. It's actually interesting because they're bringing back Jean Grey, who had disappeared for a very long time. I mean, she died quite a few years ago, and so they're bringing her back. Still don't know how it's going to pan out, but the start has been pretty good so far. So this is not the Fantastic Four. It's one of those weird floppy covers that changes. It's actually Marvel 2-in-1 that's coming back. Why is Marvel 2-in-1 important? Well, we haven't seen the Fantastic Four in a very, very long time in Marvel because of so many issues that Marvel's been having with Fox and everything, well, allegedly. And so there hasn't been a comic book about the Fantastic Four published in a while. And this, Marvel 2-in-1, is actually what seems to be the first stage of a return for the Fantastic Four. So we've got basically Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm, and they are actually getting together to try and find what happened to the Fantastic Four. Very, very interesting new beginning. Just something to read. Let's go to DC with Doomsday Clock. Well, I'm not quite sure about Doomsday Clock yet. I enjoyed Geoff Jones. I like the way it's done. It's really a pastiche in a way of the Watchmen. It's based on the Watchmen. It even looks like the Watchmen. It has the Watchmen, and it's supposed to explain the whole thing about the DC rebirth that we've been having. At least that's the rumor. There's 2 issues so far that are out. It's a very interesting read. It's compelling and everything. But Geoff Jones is a bit like the J.J. Abrams of the comic book world. So he's using everything that you enjoy about a comic book and puts it in a story. And quite often it's not as original as it could be. But still, a very enjoyable read, and I'm definitely going to recommend that. Oh, a very strange one. X-Men Grand Design. So basically, Ed Pescor is a cartoonist and is doing lots of very weird things which have nothing to do with mainstream comic book. So when he decided to, you see, it doesn't look at all like a regular comic book. He's decided to tell the story of the X-Men in a cartoonist way, and somehow that works. And it's really, I recommend. There's 2 issues out. I really recommend this. It's quite fun. It tells you the whole story of the original X-Men. Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle has always been a favorite of mine. I love the Fourth World Saga by Jack Kirby from the late 60s. And it's actually the first time that someone is really doing justice to his creation. It's written by Tom King, the guy who did Omega Man, who is writing Batman at the moment. He's also done Vision for Marvel Vision, which is an amazing thing to read. And he's been doing his version of Mr. Miracle. It's strange, it's nihilistic, it's quite interesting, a very, very strange, probably the strangest comic book that is published by DC today. Then Avengers. I mean, the Avengers are a classic. I'm not going to tell you who the Avengers are. Everybody knows. And Marvel is doing a kind of experiment. They've basically cancelled all their books except for Avengers. Avengers went back to its original numbering here. And they're going to do a weekly Avenger comic book. The first issue of the story has one of those beautiful 3D cover thing. And it's the beginning of a 16-part story that will be weekly. So it's fun. It starts well. It's not extremely I mean, there's been better Avengers stories, but so far it's not too bad. It's just a good start. Now for the big books, because there are big books. The first one that I want to talk to you about is, strangely, the Justice League, the Detroit era. Basically, Justice League Detroit was this very, very strange part of the history of the Justice League back in the 80s. Suddenly, they've decided they were fed up with not being able to use the main characters like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman the way they wanted, because of course they couldn't make any progress in the story. They couldn't change anything to Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern. So they decided to do an experiment and have only, I would say, second stringers, new characters that didn't have a comic book, regular comic book, and do the Justice League with them. It's a strange era. It's an experiment. It doesn't always work quite well. It's not really nice at times. But I reread this and I was actually surprised to enjoy it much more than I thought I would. So maybe, it's a hefty book. It's quite expensive, but maybe worth a read. And last but not least for this time, another big book. It's basically the X-Men Classic Omnibus. X-Men Classic used to be a reprint comic book in the 80s, which had the original Uncanny X-Men in it, but they added actually a little backup stories. So all of the backup stories are in this book, and it's actually a nice way to have all the stories in the same place. So quite enjoyed that. It's a bit expensive for what it is, but still quite fun. And I think that's about it for me today. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you really want, maybe I will do some more. So bye bye.